Okay, we're back. Last time we talked to Mother, we had left about 1972, and so we're here to talk to her again and hopefully pick up from 1972 and maybe even do a little background, a little bit more background. Um, Prior to this, Mother, you had mentioned that you had done a lot of camping. And I
Yeah.
suspect that's because you had three kids. You didn't, I don't think RVs were that big a thing back then, so you probably didn't have an RV. Um, and you went camping all over Michigan, and you also camped when you went to Pennsylvania, and you said that you joined a camping club there and you had a
hmm
great time. Do you remember maybe one of your favorite camping events? Where did you go that was just outstanding camping trip?
Yeah, we took the whole family. We had a three-room tent. It was a yellow, kind of yellowish, and it went like that. And it had two like bedrooms, and there was like a curtain in between, so you had three separate apartments. And we camped on the shores of the ocean. And we started, I believe, in Virginia or New York or something. We went all the way up to Maine. Ended up in Bar Harbor, and on the way there, we were near Portland, Maine. There's a big lighthouse up there, but there's all rocks and everything down there by the ocean, and your kids were climbing on the rocks and having a wonderful, wonderful time. And it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and all of a sudden it started getting dark. It had been real bright and everything, and it started getting real dark and quiet. And the birds came in to rest, and we didn't know what was going on. So all we could think of was we better get back to our campground. So we went back to the tent, and we went in the tent. We looked around, didn't see anything, and it got really dark, and it was kind of spooky, and we didn't know what was going on. And then about an hour later, it slowly got lighter again, and then the birds came out and started singing again, and then the sun was shining on it. And then we looked out, and we still didn't know what was going on. Well, we found out later on that it was a sun eclipse. Evidently, the moon had gone in front of the sun, and it got all dark for a long time. And that was, I believe it was May 6, 1954, I think. Double check on that.
And that was in our Acadia National Park.
Well, we were on the way to Arcadia National Park. Then the next day we went on to the park, and the Cadillac Mountain was up there, and we climbed that mountain and sat on top, and it was really beautiful. The winds were blowing and everything. It was awful windy up there. But then we came down and we ate lobsters, live lobsters, and then I got sick. And the campground was a long ways from the bathrooms, and that was a problem. But we stayed about 3 days in that campground. And then we went on, and we went to New Hampshire and Vermont, all the way there. And we went through New York State, and we finally ended up by the Niagara Falls. And that was a wonderful, wonderful trip, long time ago.
Any other camping trips that you remember?
Anyway,
Any other camping trips that you remember?
that was camping.
I know, but are there any other ones besides that one?
Well, there was one, I don't know if I told it before or not, but we took the family out to Dutch Cousins. And we liked that campground. It was fairly close by, and all our friends all went there and everything. We had two camping clubs, and we would take turns. One was a Fiddler's Green camping, and the other was Suncoast camping. No, I forgot. Highland Clan camper. And we had a banjo-shaped thing, and it had each family name was on it, and we always put our stake out in front of our campground. Anyway, we were there, and we were having a good time. I don't know what we were cooking something over the fire, and Joe Thomas, one of the sons of one of our friends in court, decided to go for a walk. There was a horseshoe trail out there, and they went on hiking on the trail. And while they were going, I don't know how long that trail was, but they were gone for a while, and all of a sudden a storm came up. And these kids are pretty smart, so they found an Amish farmhouse, so they asked if they could sit on their porch until the storm went over. Well, they said, come on in, and they gave them uh, cocoa, I think, and a cookie or something like that to eat on the porch, and so they stayed there all the time. In the meantime, Court's dad, Terry, and Joe's dad, Byron Thomas, went hunting for the boys, and they couldn't find them. And it was pouring. It was really storming and everything. Finally, they came back home and said, we can't find those kids. Well, the kids were already sitting back home nice and dry, and the fathers were really, really soaked. I think they were a little bit perturbed, too.
Okay, well, let's move on to another quick question here. Now, you had 3 children.
Yep. And every one of them was perfect.
Now, did any of them give you a rough time at childbirth? Did you have a tough time at childbirth, or did they just all pop right out?
Every one of them said, I want to stay here.
And growing up, did any of them give you any grief, any trouble? Did you have to whip them good or anything?
Oh, all the time. No, every one of them. They usually did what I told them to, and their dad told them to. They pretty much listened. Once in a while, maybe not, but.
Did any of them do anything that really made you happy?
Oh, everyone. I'm not terrible. No, all of them, each was an individual person, and each one did their own thing, and each one was wonderful in their own way. And Court was born early in the morning. We were going to go fishing, and we would go with Terry's parents, Grandpa and Grandma Naderville. And so we were going 6 o'clock in the morning. We were going to pick them up to go fishing to Holland Pier. Well, it didn't work out. We had to head for the hospital at 6 o'clock in the morning. And on the way, there was a train going across the track, and the train stopped and backed up and went up. But I thought we would never get there. We got into the hospital. It was about 10 to 6 in the morning, and Court was born 10 minutes later. Whew, that was scary. So, but he turned out all right.
Yeah. All right. How about your? All right. Let me ask you this: who's your favorite daughter?
My most favorite and only daughter is Val. Oh, wait a minute. I got to tell you about how the rest of the kids were born, too.
Oh, yeah.
I missed that. Okay. Val decided she wanted to get born, and then she changed her mind. And I went to the hospital, and I came back home. And I came home 2 days in a row. That happened. And then finally at 4 o'clock on the second day that I was there, she decided, okay, now it's time to be born. So she was born. And everything went wonderful. And then when Darwin was born, he was a very fragile baby before he was born. And I almost lost him. I was very, very, very sad about that. So I didn't do much during the last 3 months. And but when it was time to go, in fact, the doctor we had was an obstetrician doctor, but I really liked him. And his second name was Darwin. And I think I was so appreciative of everything that he did for me that I named Darwin after his second name. I didn't want, first name was Benjamin, but I thought that looked too obvious. So, and but all 3 of the kids turned out absolutely wonderful. The best kids ever, I told them. So they better believe me.
There you go. Now, just as a point of interest, since you're talking about how you got Darwin's name, how did you get my name of Cortland?
Oh, you shouldn't ask me that. I was reading a book, and it was a real interesting book. And one of the main characters in there had that name, and I liked it.
Okay, all right. As children, did any of your kids give you any grief, any troubles? Did any problems, anything occur with any of the children that caused you to take pause for a second? Maybe think about taking them back to Sears?
No, I don't think so. They pretty much they did their own thing, but their own thing was pretty much what we had taught them to do. They obeyed their parents pretty much. Went to Sunday school all the time. Went to catechism. Um, got good grades at school. No, they were good kids.
And as teenagers, they didn't cause you any grief? They didn't...
No, not really bad. I worried about them. Yeah, all parents do, but they turned out great.
Okay, all right. So let's go back to 1972, and you're selling real estate for Jim Hogan. And about a year later, well, no, it would have been probably sometime in late 1972, your oldest kid comes to you and says, I'm getting married. And what did you think of that?
Well, that was quite a year, I'll tell you. Court and Peg got married, which was fine. They had a nice wedding.
Now, we didn't get married in 72. We announced we were going to get married. We got married in June of 73.
Okay. You always worry when your kids say they're going to get married. But we liked Peg very much, and her parents were nice, and her sister. It was okay.
Okay. And shortly after that, your daughter announced she was going to get married.
Yep. And she was only 18 also. But we were 18 when we got married, so back in those days, I guess you got married younger. And that went all right. They all got married in church, had wedding dresses, wedding gowns, and a little get together afterwards. And in fact, one of them was in our backyard of our house there. And I think he was a musician. He stood under the one tree and sang a song. I don't remember who he was, but something.
And growing up or when you were living in Lancaster, did you ever ride the bus?
Not really, that I remember. You mean like a city bus?
Right.
Did we have one?
Well, you used to send me down for saxophone lessons to King Street. And I
Yeah.
always got on the bus.
Tiny Wright was your
Yeah.
teacher.
Tiny Wright, that's right. And I always got on the bus right there on 501, right at the entrance to Winco.
Oh,
And I would take the bus downtown with my sax.
I forgot that bus. I guess we rode it when we had to. Well, I think we only had one car at the time.
Okay.
And if Dad was using it, I guess we had to get a bus.
Now, I guess in 73, now you've been in Lancaster since 60, so you've been there 13 years, you've got your friends, you've got church, the whole 9 yards. Dad comes to you and says, guess what, we're getting transferred back to Grand Rapids. What did you think about that?
Well, it was a shock. But what do? You know, it's his job. But that was the year Court and Peg got married. Val and Ray got married. We got transferred, and Darwin got a new set of drums. I'll tell you, that's almost more than anybody could take a whole year. I'll never forget that. And I know Darwin really didn't want to go because all his friends were here. And but he got over there and he got into the stage band and he was playing his drums there and he got acquainted and he loved it, I think, and he did wonderful.
Good.
So.
Now, that was 73, so you moved back to Grand Rapids.
Yep, and we moved in the day before Thanksgiving, 1973.
And did you move into the house on Howlett?
Yeah.
You had bought that house?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you, you were there for how many years till you?
Oh, 10 or 11.
10 or 11 years? And then you built the house in Ada?
In Ada. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So what did you do? You had said earlier that you worked for Marty
Packard.
Packard.
Yeah.
Selling real estate.
Yep.
Okay. And how long did you do that?
It was about 3 years, and then there's another company, Red Apple, and I transferred over there, and it was a bigger company, and Marty Packard only had 3 people, and then this Red Apple later on became Westdale, and that was a big one with several offices all over. And then I decided to go into both residential and commercial, and that was quite a challenge. I had to take all kinds of courses and all that kind of stuff, and we had to go for a lot of classes in Chicago and stay overnight and take courses there for a week. I was working for my CCIM. I already had my GRI, my CRS, I was working on the CCIM, but there was one other one in there. Forgot. Anyway, another designation, and every one of them. The CRS came from the University of Texas, and you had to have at least 100 sales of residential properties, and you had to do a bunch of other stuff. And I got that one from Texas. I got the GRI from Penn State, and I got the RAM, which is a Realtor alumni from University of Michigan. So I had 3 college designations on those, but it was still a lot of work, you know. So, especially back in those days, women working in that field, the men just don't quite like it that much, because we might come up with better answers than they have, but they wouldn't appreciate it. So we were working on a big hotel up in by Traverse City, and it was going along pretty good. And there was the architects and the builders and all that stuff were going along, and we thought sure it was going to go through. And the last minute, the architects wanted too big a fee, so it canceled the whole deal. So that was it.
Okay, Mom, we're going to take a pause right here. We're going to go have some lunch, and then we'll come back and we'll pick up where we left off.
Whew.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.